What's going on? I'm looking at you all through circuit board colored glasses. So Roadkill and I was having a discussion on the video. I know nobody's here right now. Now we got somebody. On the video that I just uploaded this morning, the Mopar Dash, part 1. Hey Lunar, what's up? We're discussing something that you might run across, so stay tuned. If I'm correct, a 72B body might apply here. Hey Bigfoots, what's going on? Also, by the way, the video that I premiered today, it was kind of testing it. It was really early. I don't know if we'll do that early in the future. A lot of people couldn't join us, and I actually had to leave. I got a call from my dad about something, so had to go help him. So Roadkill and I was discussing circuit boards, and this is the one that goes on the back of an A body. Probably came off of a Duster. And if you look in some of the, actually I'm going to fold this down. I think you can probably see it better. Yeah, these pins are notorious because they're so long and they're just kind of a brittle brass. They tend to break off, and I have like 4 or 5 of these, and 3 of them are good. But we might have situations where you have something rare, and you can't just find another replacement. You have to repair it. I'm going to pull this back up and read. Lunar says, "Sorry, missed your last one. You pressed the look at the Sand Lake, US, and I was leaving the meeting. A little bit farther." Oh yeah, I saw that, the 06. That was kind of a long-term, well, not long-term, it was something in the making for a while, you know that. Well, Mopar Nut, I brought this in from the outside, from the garage, and I was just looking at it, and I noticed on the back side, yeah, they're kind of riveted. They have the little folded over edges there. They have these little folded over edges. Well, this one here, for instance, I don't know if they got brittle and broke off, but you can actually take this awl and you can push it out just like that. Now that's probably an exception. Now if you need to, you can probably bend these back or even grind them if you're real careful not to tear all this up, which this part is just a support. And let's say, for instance, we want to use this one. It's not perfect. It's kind of broken. But I have seen screws that are that small. So probably what you could do if you had another one of these, and I think they're pretty generic. Like the one on the van is the same as this one. The pins themselves. So you could probably finagle it back into the place there. Just work on it to get it to fit, and you can maybe take the awl and, do a little bit of that business. And you could probably put it right back in. Let's say right here it might work. Okay, so that actually snapped back in, but not secure, right? So you could probably take a little tapered head screw and run it in there. Now, Mopar Nut just said, what do? You solder it? I would say you could probably solder it, or possibly even braze it. I don't know. Soldering would probably do the trick. If the screw, you can't find a screw, it'd have to be like a fairly small screw to work in there. And you could probably run it in there, and then it would give you your good connection. Because the main thing is these contacts here is what makes it a circuit board. Like this one would cover this light socket here. So that's the main thing. So I'm thinking, yeah, silver solder. You could probably just take a broken pin and reinsert it and either solder it or put a small screw in there. So that's my guess. And hopefully Roadkill will see that, and I don't think he's having the problem necessarily. I think he's just curious about it. And we got Ithwood asking about Honda's Super Hawks. If anybody knows about that, I would Google that, because to be honest, there's only like 5 of us here. I'm not seeing a lot of dispensing of or dispensing of motorcycle knowledge. Or you could check out my cousin, who's a YouTube channel, Independent Rider. He has a Kawasaki. It's a 76. He knows enough about some of that stuff. He might help you. So look up Independent Rider. And his logo is a skull with a skull and crossbones, but they're pistons. Yeah, so that's one reason I never threw this stuff away, because I figure, well, there's probably just an easy fix. Either you can get new ones, and then if somebody does have new ones, you could just fold the backside back flat, the rivet style, because they have a little shoulder on them, which allows them to set on this part, but then the rest of it will go through. But I would say solder or a very small screw with a tapered head to allow it to seat up in there very good. Yeah, Lunar, I would say Radio Shack, actually losing them kind of lost a lot of stuff. But there is a lot of that. Actually, I bought something a while back from Radio Shack on, well, I'm sorry, an old Radio Shack stock that somebody was selling on eBay. And what had happened was they used to run that store, and they were just selling everything they had. And what's funny is on this thing, almost every one of these are bad. There's there's 3 good ones on it out of like, I think 9. Yeah, out of 9 of them. So that's our little deal. You know, I can't remember the back of the B-body. The rally gauges might be like that, and the standard is. I can't remember. The plastic film board. Yeah, and a lot of the GM used the plastic film board, which is looks like a decal almost. That sort of thing. But it looked like, if you saw in the video with the van, fortunately none of those are broken. And when I look back at my video, it looks like I'm really rough on it, but really I wasn't. I was just gradually working that plug loose. So probably on our next video, I might add this back in, because I don't tend to leave the lives up too long. I think they get kind of cluttery as far as our video list, but I'll just add it in there, what I think. And if I can find a screw in the meantime, I'll try to run a screw in there and see if it holds it securely. Then I could suggest the exact screw. Yeah. I remember Radio Shack back in the 80s when I was small. They had a lot of cool, like, novelty stuff then, which was very 80s, and it was just completely awesome. But as time went on, that stuff went out of style. Like remember the orb balls where you could touch it and it would do that? I've got one of those around here, and I love it. You put your whole hand on it and just get all that sort of thing. It was cool, and that was like a Radio Shack item back in the day. There you go. Roadkill. The man who inspired tonight's live. TV tubes. I was at an antique market today, and they had a tube tester. It was about that big. It had all these little gauges on it, and it said tube tester. But it wasn't like the ones you usually saw in the stores. It was like maybe some professional level. Well, on this one, there's no plastic. I don't know what the board. The board's not plastic. I don't think it's that, like, fiber, almost like a fiberglass, but I don't know. I wouldn't think a plastic welder would do anything. I would just say, like Mopar Nut suggests, like a silver solder. Say that, or the small screw. And the hole looks big enough. Like you talked about having something to tap into it. Probably doesn't exist, but I've seen screws that small that even had a point on them where you could get it right in there. Perspiration, inspiration. That's right. That is absolutely right. So, Opar Nut, how do you like your new shirt? You're the first one, actually. I look back at the analytic. You're the first one to order something from us. What do you think of your shirt? Is it good quality? Is the print good quality? That's probably the biggest thing, is the actual image look good on there. It's a high DPI image, so hopefully it looks good. And just give us a quick review of the Teespring t-shirt with the Hoosier Garage van on it. That's the one you got, right? The van. I think it's the van. Yeah, circuit boards. You don't see too much on them. Because most people tear this stuff out, put modern gauges in them, and they just throw stuff out. They don't care. Awesome. So, like I mentioned the other night, if we can get our subscribers, which I lost another subscriber earlier, but then I gained one back, so I can't seem to get past, I think the number's 237. Yeah, 237 is a number I can't seem to eclipse that for some reason. If we can get to 300 by the end of this month, then I'm going to give away a shirt and a decal to somebody. We're going to set something up, and we'll give it away. And that means we'll get your size first, which shirt you want, which color, and then we will order it ourselves and then send it to you personally. So you'll get a shirt and a sticker. That is based on or contingent on maybe a quiz or a drawing or something like that. So your gauge has a little board behind it. Yes. So, and I've actually seen tachometers that had these style pins in them. I used to have a mid-70s Sun Super Tack. And when you look down inside the back of it, it had 4 of these in it. And yeah. People are fickle. But that's okay. We only want people here that want to stay here anyway. So I'm not into buying subscribers and all that. I would like to keep moving up. That's just my goal, is to keep moving up. I don't like going backwards. Backwards is counterproductive. Your 87 Ram Charger. Yeah, I'm wondering when they quit using the pins. I wonder if it was maybe around the end of that truck line or something. Maybe 93, somewhere in there. That's when they kind of did away with whatever they had left. It seemed like. Because, you look at the vans, like mine, although not precise, they ran that from 71 all the way till, I believe, 03. And they just kept changing little things along the way. And the whole instrument clusters on those was almost like a modern car, at least like the trucks were in the mid-2000s. So there's always change. Lunar, take it easy, buddy. Thanks for visiting tonight. Enjoying the videos, the frame and the wheels and tires and everything on your satellite. But and on these boards, that's really the only thing. At least this being an A-body board, it's the only thing I'm seeing that's really an issue. Now I've cleaned all the copper contacts up with like a real fine steel wool, and I think it just kind of takes that. The charge that goes through there. My words are escaping me, but I had one time and the lights was really faded. Let's just put it this way. And when I went through it, I took a light steel wool and just worked it down real good, and actually got a little shinier. And when I put it all back together, I noticed it was a little brighter. So I think the continuity was a little better. And I think that helped. But other than that, and these things don't, this is for your regulator, those don't really go bad. They're in there really secure. It's just these pins. And I think if you use one of those methods on the pins and you're kind of strapped, that's probably fitting there if you had to use a screw. Yeah, make sure you like everything here. Thanks, Edward. Yeah, steel wool, or you can maybe even do like the, I use the Brillo pads, get a real fine Brillo pad and use that and just work it down to where it has a nice, consistent reflection to it. Yes. I mean, these are more sturdy than the plastic or the little filming ones. Yeah. The brass rod. Stuff like that. I think they're definitely, so if you have one of these in any particular vehicle, don't toss it. If you see another one's broken, grab it. That way you'll have pins. Because the pins they never break out in the middle. They always break at the base. So you have that little mushroom part down there, and then the rest of it fits down in the hole. And I mean, really neat little piece of engineering. It's just I think they get old, or somebody gets cranking on that one time and it just snaps them. The board is almost made of, like, I've heard my dad talk about what these are. This stuff was used a lot back middle of the last century. But there's a name. It's almost like a carbon. It's almost like a compressed cardboard in a way, but it's probably got a little bit more resin in it. And it's pretty sturdy. I mean, you could flex them around pretty good. And then they just inlay that copper contacts in there, which you can see really good about there. Easy for 3 ways exhaust management. Yeah. And I've done that before too. Actually, I'll tell you, the only thing I'm kicking myself over right now, but I mean, what are you going to do? When I was 17, I bought a 73 Dart Sport. And car was bad, I junked it. But I parted it out. I kept almost everything off of it. I just junked the shell, really. And I kept the rear bumper off of it. It had the small A-body bumper on it. And I had it all the way up until about 2 years ago. We scrapped I had just a bunch of sheet metal and just junk steel, and we took it all off and recycled it, basically. And that bumper was in there. And here a while back, I got that 72 Duster, and guess what it's missing? The rear bumper. And it would fit a 72. Yeah, I mean, you could slap somebody with one of these and it'd feel it good. Paul Buckner says 0000 quadruple 0 steel wool will not scratch. It actually polishes. Good stuff for circuit board. Yeah, exactly. So very fine, because it gets that oxidation on it. And I bet, particularly where your contacts on your bulbs sockets touch that, and check those too. Make sure you polish those up good, and they have a nice spring effect where they click in there and they fit in there good. They're not loose. Sometimes the sockets themselves, the little clips on the plastic part, will break and they'll fall out. With a nice connection there, you've got everything polished up, and you got good grounds, and your pins are all in place and they're all nice and snug. you shouldn't have any problem getting nice bright lights. Other factors I know, in my 73 that I had years ago, I didn't have any lights, but I'd done all this stuff. And I checked the fuse box, and actually one of the little clips around one of the fuses was corroded only where it touched the fuse. Looking at it with the fuse in it, you couldn't see it. It actually looked great. But when you popped the fuse out, and I can't remember what cavity it was basically one that runs the instrument lights. It was corroded, so I actually had to clip it out of declip it from the back of it, the block, and then clean it up really good. And then clipped it back in, and my lights worked perfectly. They didn't stutter or anything. Once you hit the switch, they came on. They were very strong. That's bad advice. There you go. The electric grease. Yeah, that stuff where you're upside down and underneath the dash, you're best to just pull it out. It's going to be a better repair anyway. It's what the thing is. You can have 20,000 toggle switches, but you need something to, if you have a surge, like a fuse, you need something to fuse in there at least, so that if you have a big surge, it'll blow the fuse out, and then you won't burn to the ground. So, because I mean, you have a toggle switch and you start smelling something, start seeing smoke, you can turn it off, but you've already burned up something on there. So you need a fuse, even if it's an inline. Yep. See, when you're young, that's what you do. You just wire it straight because you're anxious and you want to get it going. But yeah, it's what I hope you're not dispensing this sort of information on your channel. You might get a class action lawsuit. Wouldn't that suck? You smell smoke, there's fire. Yeah, I've seen the fuse wrapped in foil, and then I've seen gum wrappers that had the aluminum foil on it. They stuff it in there which is probably okay in a pinch, but I wouldn't, rely on that. If you're stuck somewhere and you need to get home. But even then, try to carry some fuses with you. Well, if you got a drag car, I would say I would just run run a custom race harness in there. If your dash harness, your factory dash harness, is in good shape, just put it away or sell it, depending on what you have to do with the car. Yeah, and sometimes you got to clean the fusible links too. I had one that was really gray with corrosion. I was having starting problems. Like it wasn't consistent. I cleaned that off real good, and it's like a brand new car then. So you like stock appearing. Yeah. But when you got race car stuff going on, it kind of eliminates a lot of that. If we're referring to Bigfoot Cornet. Oh, look. If you follow me on Facebook, I posted pictures of this earlier. Yes, it's backwards. From like 1971, I think. Of course, Indy, I think Andretti won in '69 with the STP car. So I've got two of those. So one of these, if not both of them, will go on the van, at least on the side window. And we'll have a couple others too, just to get that look. I'll be right back. Street use and occasional strip. Well, that's what's the STP. It's like their product isn't necessarily all that great, but if you want to talk about how to market something, especially back in the day, I remember as a child, and when I was a kid, I was not interested in cars in the slightest, but I do remember seeing these on cars. I remember seeing them on jackets, on patches. So, very good marketing, whether the product's very good or not, and they just look cool. Paul, hello from Northwest Indiana. I am south of, I'm actually near Louisville. I'm right down I-65 in Sellersburg, so I'm about 10 miles from the Ohio River. I'm originally from Central Indiana, so I'm a big fan of Central Indiana, Indianapolis. And I was up in Northwest Indiana about 2 years ago. We was actually going to Chicago, and I have been to the dunes, so I'm familiar with your part of the state as well. Yeah, and Petty having STP on all his cars, pretty big deal. Illinois. Yeah, I'd say the closest point of Illinois for me is about maybe about an hour and a half. I grew up in the Indianapolis media market, so everything I grew up doing. And if you watch my videos, now most of you don't pick up on it, but there's a lot of, uh, maybe not a lot, but there's enough content in there that kind of refers to a long ago Indianapolis media thing. So some people have gotten it, which is cool, but those that don't get it, it it's kind of a new experience, I guess. So it's like an original thing. A million people ask me for money. Well, you get that in Indy too. I was in Indy. I remember downtown Indy one time. I was at a Buffalo Wild Wings. And I came out, and this guy asked me for a couple dollars, and I didn't have a couple dollars on me because I all kind of get in this habit of carrying debit cards. And I said, "Sorry, man, I ain't got any money on me." He's like, "Man, you go and eat in here." I said, "You got to have some money." I said, "Yeah, but I don't. I can't wire you any money while we're standing here on the street." I didn't want to give him anything anyways. I didn't know the guy. He was just asking people for money. Evansville, yeah. It's been a while since I've been to Evansville. I want to say maybe 10 years since I used to help my dad in a job I used to have with him. We would maintenance Federal Express or FedEx buildings kind of around the immediate region, and Evansville was one of them, and it was on the north side of the town. Really clean area there. Yeah. stop walking. A good thing was it was daylight and there was a lot of other people around. And when we talk about traveling around, as far as the video channel, I think when we get the van done, like it's on the road, it's painted, I would like to maybe once a month or every other month do a video where we go somewhere in Indiana that's like automotive related and share that with you all. And like we would be in the van, we'd be try to do something cool that way. And then during that time in between, we would be working hopefully on the Duster and doing what we do now, basically just adding to it. It's what I need to come for you for more advice on everything. This is amazing. Tell them you're packed. Bring it to the street fights. Duster will be a street car. I never build race cars because we don't have like, I mean, if you like to run drag strips around here, we don't have anything but eighth mile strips. There's Ohio River Valley, Ohio Valley, yeah, Ohio Valley over in Louisville, south end of Louisville. They've got an eighth mile. I think out at Hardinsburg, Indiana, it's an eighth mile. And I think the only quarter mile will be up at Indianapolis, Raceway Park. I like the drivers. I just like cars because it's bad enough where we work on this stuff constantly. I've never driven this van, right? The last car I had, I didn't drive it for 5 years until the last year, and I sold it. The Duster I worked on, the old Duster I used to have, I worked on it 2 years, finally drove it for about a year and a half. I'm kind of getting to a place where you just want to drive them because well, I've always done dual purpose in a way where you build them up a little bit, but they're just like hotter street vehicles. But even then, with the way the quality of parts is getting, then you're going to be down a lot, it seems like. So it's almost like, I don't know. You don't see a lot of cars on the road anymore. And I think it's because people fool with them too much. And they're down so much. And they're going to be that way somewhat anyways because of the technology on them. But when you add stuff to them, and you're not careful, or you're getting bad parts, which is epidemic now. $20 run all night. Yep. You're wrecking them or breaking them. Yeah, and see, I've kind of, when I was younger, teenager, early 20s, I had this mentality that you had to do certain things. You had to have headers. You had to get a lower gear ratio on it. You had to have bucket seats in a console. You had to have the scoops. You had to have the sport mirrors. You had, just like you kind of paint yourself in this corner, and you had to have the high-rise floor barrel. It's like you got it, great, but kind of like with this van, it's a van, so you don't feel as much the urge to do that. It's all there original, so just leave it the way it is. It'll drive. It's just a van. Now with the Duster, it was a Slant 6 car originally. So I think the main thing to do on that is fix the body, which is what I always do first. And I'm much quicker restoring that stuff than I used to be. It used to take a long time, or I had to, save up and get this and learn how to do it and be scared of it. Now I just tear through it. Let's fix it. Now we're making videos of it. Yeah, 364 barrel, 355 gears. Now my last Duster I had tried to do the 408. The guy screwed it up, so we went back to a 340. Put the same top end on it. Had 355 gears. Ran good. But then I had problems with the carburetor and the transmission, because the guy who did the engine also did the transmission, and he put this shift kit in it that made it way too soft on the shifts and ended up burning up clutches in it. And it was just like, if we wouldn't mess with this stuff, we wouldn't have these problems. And he also put one of them Boss Hog torque converters on it, and it was just full of metal from when they milled it or something. It was just garbage stuff. Blue Top Driving in Highland, Indiana. Last car trucks. That's cool. I'm familiar with where Highland is. Yeah, we would like to go to the dunes again. So that's actually a great suggestion. And it would be great. I think it's about 6 hours from my place, maybe 5, from here to the dunes. And then you can probably swing by Highland and see what's going on there if they plan it all together. Now I do like 2-door cars, because that's the compromise, I guess you could say. Because if you want to drive the car, a lot of the fun of it is being seen. So I'm not so much on the Uncle Tony bandwagon where don't spend your time counting doors. Well, look at the side of it. I don't like to dismiss 4 doors, but also at the same time, if I'm going to spend my money on something, I want it to look the way I want it to look. So typically going to be a 2-door. There's too much overlap on the shifts on that thing. You could not detect when the thing shifted. And I'll tell you what, one thing, it was scary. I had the car on the road for about 10 miles, and I was trying to adjust, what was it? Oh, the kickdown linkage. Well, I got it right. Now, this is on the 73 Duster. I was going down the highway. It was a 55-mile-an-hour highway, and I'm holding it at about 50. There's a stop sign probably an eighth of a mile from me, and I let off the gas. As I do, I feel the transmission wind up really tight, almost as if it was in first gear, but it was almost like there was a half gear there somewhere, and it tightened up so much that the car actually went into a skid, and I went sideways, and I was in a panic because I'm like, I've never had this happen. What is going on? Something the transmission is. I look in my rearview mirror and I see a car, not dangerous, but he's coming towards me, and I'm thinking, this is it. So I'm revving the engine trying to get it to go, and it's just doesn't want to do it. Barely wants to go. And so I put it back in the neutral, and the car's coming up on me a little bit. And I put it back into first, and it was able to, it kind of lunged forward, and I was able to, it's on the column, go 1, 2, and I'm like, I need to get back to the house. And I was about a mile from the house, and I got back home, and I just sit there and stared at it for about an hour. I'm like, what just happened with this thing? It was the only time I ever had that happen. Yeah, 4-doors do make great sleepers. I had a friend back. This is back in the late '90s. He had a '73 Chrysler Newport 2-door. It was like the light pea green metallic, and he had the dark green vinyl top and the plush green interior, and it had a 400 in it. He drove that car everywhere. He drove it from up near Indianapolis all the way down to Louisville, quite a bit. Never had a problem with it. Sports sedans. Now, Paul mentioned the Blue Top Drive-In. I'm assuming it's a drive-in theater. Um, we have one down in Georgetown, Indiana, that's very, very popular. They've had car shows, but it's not like a yearly thing. They'll just kind of occasionally have one, and it's up kind of on a hill. And they have like a '57 Chevy on the sign out front with a neon tube going down the side, emphasizing the body lines on it. It's kind of neat. Grandpa fresh with a 440. 70 Imperial, yeah. See, now Imperials were a whole other ball game. They had a lot of time. I think they was one of the first cars that had air conditioning vents that went to the back seat area, and it was like in the roof or something. Um, and of course, the Imperials were well known for I think one of the first cars banned from demolition derbies because they was built maybe 2 times. Four bucket seats, 2 consoles. Almost sounds like a '66 Charger. 67, 66, 67. One of the years, maybe both of them had the console that went all the way through. That's what that sounds like. It's wet. Good deal, Paul. Yeah, I'd like to check out something like that. I definitely want reasons to go all over our state, and then we could show you what everybody else what we have, especially car related stuff. So stuff like that is excellent. Of course, Indy obviously has a lot of stuff because of the Speedway, things like that. There's a pretty good car culture there. Um, and even occasions like I'd like to go to the Dream Cruise up in Detroit. That'd be kind of fun to do sometime. Mopar Nationals in Columbus, stuff like that. We all seem to have those cars that we regret getting rid of. I almost regret getting rid of the '74 Challenger I had. It was actually one of the best running cars. I mean, I drove that more than probably any of the cars I've had, which, being an e-body, you think wouldn't be possible, but it was a very, very reliable car. And we did 2 different motors. The original motor was a 318. Blew a hole in the piston. I think the timing was off. I was young. And then we put a 360 in it, 4-barrel headers, all that stuff. The only thing I didn't change on it was the gears. It had a 8 3/4 rear, and it had 294 Sure Grip airplane gears. But boy, I think Cruise though had cruise control. It worked. It was a dealer install. Yeah, you had the one that would leave you everywhere. But you know what the thing is about cars like that? There's always that like simple problem that you can't find. Um, I had a Dark Sport one time that was like that. Like you could not figure out what was wrong with it. You replaced what seemed like everything. Well, I went through the car and did basically what I'm doing with this band. And when I put it back together, whatever was wrong, I fixed it somewhere in there. It could have been a connection. It could have been a part I replaced. I don't know what it was to this day. I have a feeling it was something in the distributor because I did not replace the distributor, but I did replace the pickup in it. It was an electronic ignition pickup. I think it was probably that, but I don't know for sure. Well, when I got the e-body I had, the Challenger, I bought it in '05, and a guy on Moparts.com had it. That's all I was looking for, a 72 through 74, because that would have been in my price range possibly. And I had trouble finding a good price on them then, but he had picked it up at a estate sale for $3,200 in '04, I think. And then I bought it in '05 for $5,000 up in Cleveland and drove it all the way home down I-71. No problem. Love that car. And my '73 Duster left stuck one time. I had the tow truck at home. Um, Charging issue, but you couldn't. We would try to jump the battery. It wouldn't. It kept draining the battery hard. Got another battery and put a different alternator on it, and it fixed it. But when it took the battery down, it took it down. Like you couldn't. There was no going back. Killed it. Could have been battery though. That 65 is pretty cool. I was looking at it yesterday. He's got like an AAR style scoop on the hood. Kind of different. Looks pretty good. Yeah, it's like it needs maybe almost like needs a stripe of some sort. I don't know. So if he gets to that point where it's finished, I think he can make it work really good. Because it almost reminds me of like the mid '60s Ford when they had that big closed teardrop high rise scoop on them. But it looks better than that. Mud catcher. So on my Challenger, I had the flat hood. I put a 6-pack hood scoop on it, but I didn't want to have the seams or the rivets on it, so I melded it into I screwed it in from the bottom, and I fiberglassed it. And to this day, it actually has held up so cool. But I put a 1-inch carb spacer under it, so when you looked at the front of the opening on the scoop, you could see the air cleaner was directly in line. He had bolt teardrop on the Ford. And then I put like a mesh grill inside of it. I sunk it back. You know how the grill on the Challenger or the Charger, they sit back from the front? I kind of did that. I took some gutter screen, that kind of has a long weave in it. I painted it black and then bent it like a box and then put it up in behind the scoop, and then took some gutter flashing, not gutter flashing, but some aluminum fascia, and cut some strips to where it would be like the inside of the grill. So it dropped back in about 1 inch. I painted it silver and put it in there. And it looked kind of like a factory, like if they really dressed them out. It was kind of neat. Hog snout Super B hood. That's cool. Yeah, Cal Induction, it's so Chevrolet that it just looks out of place on anything other than Chevrolet, or at least the GM. Especially when they put that body line right down the middle of the hood. whether it drops or it raises. It just looks so Chevrolet. I think I agree with you on the electronic ignition. Because he kind of plays into the really archaic, like as archaic as it is as possible. But I mean, really, that's not that big of a jump. It's just, you know, you don't have to dilly dally with your points and all that stuff. And it tends to hold itself in really good shape. The electronic ignition. Like in my opinion, like as far as cars, if you want a car that's like the most compatible with modern driving conditions, and you want a Mopar, but you don't want like something that's just really dragged down by like really funky styling or a bunch of extra emission stuff, then your 73 and 74 Mopars, if you just take the whole ball of wax, are the best, particularly A bodies, because you're more likely to have disc brakes, you're more likely to have a sway bar, the larger rear end, and then you might, if you depends on how much more you want to go, you're going to have the power steering almost always, and you are very likely to have air conditioning. So if you're trying to build something without having to add it, because like this 72 Duster I got, it's probably going to get a 73 through 76 suspension anyway. But if you bought a 73, 74 car, people gripe about them because of the styling on them being, but it's not that bad. I get it. I mean, that's why one reason I bought a 72, because you have the earlier, that slicker, cleaner look. But I mean, when you think about it, it's got everything in it that's wrong. It's got that little tiny rear. It's got no sway bars, no disc brakes. Crony, what's up? And if, you know, if you get a 73, 74 that doesn't have a V8, then it's a little drawback. But then you might get one, which I had the 73 Dart Sport. It had the small pattern drum brakes, small rear, and a slant six. It was one of my first cars, so yeah. Yep. Exactly. And that's the thing. If you get into one of the earlier cars and you're trying to be economy minded, well, you're probably going to have a car that doesn't have many options or any really good features on it. And so you want to pay more and find like a 340 or a 440, you know, depending on what the car is, you're going to get stuck with a car that has bad brakes and bad handling. The steering subjective. I don't mind manual steering on an A body. It's really not a big deal. It's actually maybe preferable. But as far as the Duster, unfortunately, I have a new drug dealer or a guy that has a massive load of Mopar parts, and he lives about 25 miles from me. He's over in Kentucky. And I think I can build most of my car from what he has. So he's got disc brake setups, rear ends, sway bars, everything I need to underpin that Duster properly. Overpowered steering, yes, and that is a problem with a lot of the Mopars. They're too, you can almost throw the wheel, you know. Now, one thing I always did, I always took the boxes out and sent them to Fernfield up in the Pacific Northwest. And I would usually pick, I think, the number 2 box. And they would bore it out and put different springs and all that stuff in it, and it felt great after that. Loved what they did. You had a lot of road feel, and they felt firm. And I really liked it. I think number 1 was the factory. They just built it back to the original new seals. 2, they improved it, and 3 was like even tighter. It would be good for a road race car, I think, if you did 3. Now, Mopar nut, does those poly bushings, do they squeak, or do you have enough the grease on them? I've had hit and miss with that. Like, I'll cover them in grease, and then they'd still squeak. Giant skinny wheel, you get. So you get that real loose steering if you put a smaller wheel on it. Then it almost, they kind of work themselves out. But now we're talking lifted trucks. Good boy. Good boy. I think when we get to the hour mark, I'm going to hang it up. I got a couple of things to do. And we remember why we're here in the first place. Our circuit board colored glasses. Black. Good deal. Hopefully it livens up the graveyard shift for you. I know how that can be. Sometimes they can be stressful or they can be really boring. I need to get Lunar to of course I did get him to do it before. I need to get him to advertise for me again. Impregnated. I had on my Camaro. I had black ones on it, but they may have been a different brand. They weren't red or anything. Loading up with grease, so you go over little bumps and you hear the springs just going. All right, guys, we're almost out. I know most of you are probably subscribed, but if you aren't, make sure you do me a favor and subscribe, rate, share, all that kind of business. Share the page. Let your friends know about me. I appreciate you joining the chat tonight. It's been fun, hopefully informative, if not entertaining. So, y'all have a good night. If you got any questions, just post on the comments. I usually get stuff right away. So, thanks for watching, guys.